Hello, I'm Martin Sheen. You know, it's been 40 years since some concerned scientists started talking about environmental threats to our planet. Unfortunately, a number of those predictions are now becoming realities. The lack of fresh water in the normally arid parts of the world are now causing devastating famines as the world's 6 billion people stretch the Earth's capabilities. But some of the people who talked about these environmental threats are doing something about them. And I'd like you to see what they've done in the small East African nation of Eritrea, using pure seawater to grow food for people and animals, and through that effort put hundreds of developing world citizens to work.
Right now, millions of people are not having access to enough food. Every day, each person needs about 2,100 kilocalories, and they're not getting anywhere close to that. People say every 4 or 5 years there's going to be another serious drought. It's how Eritrea is able to handle the drought and respond to it that's going to matter.
It is a mere dot, a blur on a spinning globe. A drought-ridden North African country, only slightly larger than the state of Pennsylvania, its coastline lying parched against the Red Sea.
The coasts of Eritrea are the origin of human being. From these places, from these coasts, humanity emigrated all over the world. Everybody has his root in this place.
Although its roots are ancient, Eritrea is the youngest nation on the African continent. Revolution has marred its history. A long, bitter war for independence has scarred its landscape. But there is a new revolution underway, one that has nothing to do with guns and tanks. It is a surging revolution, aimed at claiming freedom from the relentless drought that drains the nation's resources and saps the energy of its people.
Hello there. How are you? All these beautiful young children depend on goat milk, camel milk, and they normally depend on a little bit of grain. They grow maize, corn, and another year you could see it growing here. This year, zero, nada, because of no rain.
The drought we had the last few years, if it continues, it could prove to be a very difficult time for us. But at the same time, with the investments we are doing, we hope that some of the people, some of the 8% people living from farming could switch to all other kind of businesses, and that could reduce the impact of the drought.
Eritrea's population of mostly farmers and herders is diverse. In fact, within this nation of just under 4 million people, there are 9 different nationalities or tribes who speak 9 different languages. Religiously, the population is split down the middle, 50-50, between Muslims and Christians. The streets of the capital city of Asmara are lined with evidence of nearly 100 years of Italian colonialism.
These palm trees were imported by the Italians. They were not here originally.
After World War II, when the Italians lost, the British came in and Asmara and Eritrea was a protectorate. Then the UN designated that Ethiopia would annex Eritrea against the wishes of the Eritrean government. During the 1970s, when Haile Selassie was assassinated by the communist takeover in Ethiopia, the struggle began for independence.
The battle for freedom was long and hard fought, lasting 30 years and costing 65,000 lives. Border disputes with Ethiopia continue, despite a 2002 Hague court ruling.
Eritrea, as we say, you can have 3 seasons in 2 hours. You know, right now we are in about 2,300 meters, and if you drive another half an hour from here, you will be in a plateau of, 1,600 meters, and another 1 hour and a half in Massawa and the whole sea area. And, we have about 1,000 kilometers of sea coast.
And Eritrea means the Red Sea. The Red Sea that belongs to Saudi Arabia, to Sudan, to Egypt, to Eritrea, and to Yemen. Eritreus in Greek means red because in some seasons the sea is colored by some algae, and the ancient persons, the ancient navigators saw the sea in these periods. That's why they call it Eritrea.
It is here on the Red Sea near the port city of Massawa that the war against drought is taking root. This new revolution has replaced guns and tanks with technology and human resolve. Seawater Farms Eritrea and the Desert Development Foundation have joined together with international investors and the government of Eritrea to establish the world's first commercial seawater farm. It has created jobs for over 400 Eritreans and also serves as a laboratory for marine biology students from the University of Asmara.
It's been tough at times.
Carl Hodges is the founding director. An atmospheric physicist and former director of the Environmental Research Lab at the University of Arizona, Hodges believes that growing seawater-loving plants in desert areas could have a profound effect on Eritrea's future.
It's a tragedy that the world view of much of Africa is when there's famine. We have rock concerts to raise money, and we send it, and we feel terrible when we see the cover of our Economist or Time or Life with a child with an extended belly, and we should feel terrible. But what we are to do is help them fix the problem forever. This technology, seawater agriculture, when it's finally in all of its glory with maybe 20 or 30 agronomic crops, with a whole spectrum of aquatic animals, will eliminate the possibility of famine in Eritrea forever. It will be gone. And in fact, it will make Eritrea an exporter of food. So it has tremendous potential.
The benefits are threefold. Exporting seafood brings dollars into Eritrea's economy and provides employment for its people. The principal field crops of salicornia and mangrove have many uses, including much-needed ruminant feed for the country's livestock. And the greening of any portion of the Earth's surface reduces global warming, believed by many to be a contributing factor to global drought. The seawater farm was begun in 1998 with the dredging of a channel that allowed water to flow from the Red Sea, a saltwater river flowing upstream into the desert.
Freshwater agriculture was invented about 10,000 years ago. I mean, we could stay home and somebody else would grow our food. All of our culture's built on it. But now we've run out of fresh water. This is seawater. This is a river of seawater coming inland.
The newly created 3-mile-long river meanders purposely through seawater farms, first filling large tanks that anchor the farm shrimp operation. The water continues its route to enrich commercial fish ponds. Then, twice enhanced with nutrients from the shrimp and fish effluent, the river flows on to irrigate and fertilize agricultural crops. Eventually, many weeks or months later, having been biologically cleaned as it is filtered through the ground, the water makes its way back to the Red Sea.
About 2.5 years ago, I came here to train people in the technology, the mechanics of growing shrimp, and I worked with biologists, recent graduates from the University of Asmara, and they had really no practical experience because this was the first farm. And they've responded really well and learned all the technology that they need, and they're doing this on their own now. We have approximately 150 tanks. It's 5 hectares, and with all that in production, we can produce approximately 1 ton of shrimp per day. The way we harvest these ponds is to first drain the water and concentrate the shrimp, and then our technicians go in and concentrate them with seines, and when they get them close enough, they scoop them up into baskets and put them into ice water. That kills them immediately and chills them, and by doing that they can have them in the packing plant within about 15 minutes, and that keeps the quality as fresh as it can possibly be. The goal of this shrimp farm is to produce an export crop for Eritrea so that they can sell this and bring foreign currency in. And at the time we're selling our shrimp in Europe, they've been sold in Paris and London, and we try to keep our cropping plans flexible so that we can provide different sizes of shrimp.
Maintaining pollution-free coastal waters while engaging in shrimp farming is of the utmost importance to the environment. Seawater Farms Eritrea has gone the extra mile.
This farm is a completely closed cycle in the sense that all the effluent from these shrimp ponds goes on to Salicornia Farm and eventually to the wetlands and salt production. None of it ever goes back to the ocean. And as far as I know, it's the first farm that's ever been built like that and that addresses the contamination and pollution issue so successfully.
Ponds of tilapia, a food fish being raised for the marketplace, are fertilized with water from the shrimp operation. Later, the enriched pond water is siphoned off to irrigate fields of Salicornia. Salicornia is a halophyte, one of a family of plants that grows in pure, untreated seawater.
This is a commercial scale farm right here, this Salicornia field. Salicornia is exciting because you have the green plant. When it's young, you can eat it like a vegetable. When you harvest the seed, which is about 20% of the total biomass, of that seed, 30% is a high-quality vegetable oil for cooking with or as a salad dressing. And the meal, the 70% that's left behind, is as good as soybean meal. It's high protein. You can use it as a supplement to human food. You can use it in animal diets. It's truly an exciting plant.
Salicornia also has commercial value in the strong composition building material that can be made from its dried husks.
The concept is to cover every square inch of land so we're maximizing the benefit of the solar energy here. The input energy is representing money. In addition to being used for fodder, this ornamental halophyte is also used for cooling the climate in the local area. This ground cover is also very helpful in stabilizing the soil against wind erosion.
Commercial farm, we are getting yield around 1 tons per hectare, and here we are again improving the genetic potential of the crop. We have more than 700 different types of Salicornia plant. Each and individual tends at different plant type, different varieties of the Salicornia. So some of the varieties are for good seed yield, some of them are good for higher biomass, some of them are for higher oil quantity. So all those aspects we are taking under the research,
This plant, if I don't break it off, has something underground that is critically important. Let me rinse it off. This sand that plant was growing in has essentially no carbon. This root structure is a carbohydrate. Good agricultural soil, which this will become over many, many years, has 16 to 18% carbon. So what we've done is we've taken fossil fuel, oil from plants millions of years ago, put it into the air, made our life good by using energy, we're now with intelligence taking it back out, generating wealth. This is wealth, above ground wealth, and we're creating high carbon level soil for future generations. This is the way to solve global warming. If there's one area on the farm I hope everybody understands, it's this. This is seawater forestry farming. It is not forestry in the classical sense. These are mangrove trees that are 2 years old. They were seeds 2 years ago. When we planted them, 25 per square meter, we planted them this far apart. Then, when they were 1 year in, we cut every other tree. When we did that, we got an incredible yield. We got 10 metric tons of stems. These are the roots of the mangroves. It makes roots and sticks them up so that even when this is being irrigated, it can breathe oxygen. This was the diameter of a mangrove tree 1 year old. Here's one 2 years old. You can see the incredible growth. This is a little tree that was a seed that fell off of these trees. We didn't plant this one. It's making root systems already. Eventually these roots will look like that when they stick out of the ground. Here's one that's younger that I just broke the roots off of. But that's actually what the seed looks like. With this part missing, that's what a mangrove seed looks. It falls, the roots start out, find the ground, it turns up, and in 2 years that'll be a tree this big. As the trees get bigger, they're building material.
And as the forests increase in density, they will provide firewood. Already a commercial honey crop is being harvested. Flamingos, herons, and more than 200 other species of birds have already found refuge in the fledgling forest. The mangrove industry has also offered a haven for a cooperative of women who have become the guardians of the forest. They pick and sell the mangrove leaves that are used as a component for animal feed. Their profit is 2 to 3 times the average annual wage.
So this is like the pilot group. It's 27 widows, mostly, not all of them. But the idea is to have a program where they can have education. But the main thing is to achieve that these women become self-sufficient from the forestry. So these women are experts on mangroves. They know how to grow it, take care of them, the seeds, the times, everything. They can teach you whatever you want to know about mangroves.
The number, thousands.
Literacy here in Eritrea is very, very, very low. I don't know exactly, but I don't think none of the women knew how to write and read before coming here. And now, mostly all of them know how to do that.
So here's an old shell casing that we put into the seawater in the irrigation canal to help dissolve iron molecules to be used by the plants. This is a peaceful use of former war material.
It is ironic that on this now pastoral site, the largest tank and artillery battle of Eritrea's 30-year fight for independence took place. Reminders dot the landscape and trigger memories for the women foresters. 30% of the combat forces were women who carried guns and led troops.
On the battlefield, whether in the desert or on the jungle, we fought just like the men. There was no difference between us. When we came here, we found skeletons from the war where we now cultivate the mangroves. We thank God Almighty that this is now a happy place.
They have a lot of opportunities now. I mean, they can be in their home with their children, have to take different decisions, and they're very empowered. They're very strong. This project helped them to guide that power.
Resiliency among the women foresters is not surprising when you consider the unique spirit of this tiny country. Within the mixture of faiths and contrasting cultures, Eritrea's countrymen and women have found purpose in enterprising ways.
The boots of the soldiers were worn out. They recycled the old tires, the old automobile tires or farming tires from the tractors, and made them into Congo shoes. In one part of the city there's a huge, huge steel representation of the Congo shoes, which indicates to the country the resourcefulness, the inventiveness, and the solidarity during the struggle. One market that is here in Eritrea that was unique throughout the world is what we call the ultimate recycling market in the world. For a country that doesn't recognize recycling as an environmental project, Medabear takes every bit of scrap metal and wood that it can find anywhere in the country and is recycled and reused in this wonderful market called Medabear. It's like a dance with the color and the noise and the heat. It's just a beautiful symbol of Eritrea's desire to be resourceful and not to waste.
There's an underlying aesthetic here that is very striking, and I think it's partly because of the environment. It's a harsh environment in terms of climate and landscape itself. For instance, it's very monochromatic by and large, and the people in their customary dress, they wear very bright colors, and I'm always reminded of like walking flowers or butterflies as they walk through the landscape. It's just a very, very striking aesthetic, and I think that that idea is carried out subconsciously or subliminally through many things that they do. There's an elegance of efficiency that combines beauty that's very remarkable.
These folks are the Al-Rashidas, and they come here back in the 20s from Saudi Arabia. They're basically Arab. Some of these people are also Tigray from Eritrea, but most of this village is Al-Rashidas. They live off of grazing their animals on the natural vegetation that comes from rainfall, and you notice there is none right now this year. And they also, when it rains a little bit, they rush out, they have their fields ready, and they plant sorghum or some other crops. If they get a second and a third rain, then they get something good to eat and some feed for the animals. This year they got none.
One of the greatest potentials here in Eritrea is livestock production. Obviously in a place like this that's drought prone, you can't really talk about growing large amounts of wheat and large amounts of cereals here. So we have to look at livestock. If we can develop this halophyte-based small ruminant feed, and we can grow animals here and we can feed them on basically seaweed, mangroves, that kind of thing, then that idea can be replicated up and down the Red Sea coast. Why couldn't we do it in any place along any coastline where seawater plants grow and there's a need for economic development, which describes a tremendous part of the world?
The Eritrean coastal area is the origin of human being. Human beings have their roots here, and I would like to see everybody coming here to see his roots. People from all over the world, the humanity.
You know, it's also the roots of the second agricultural revolution. It started 10,000 years ago, because now we're using seawater.
We're battling against human ignorance. We're battling against human greed. People that look at the developing world as a place to make money exclusively, not putting it in a broad enough context. We're battling against time. But basically, what we're doing is we're taking human intelligence, photosynthesis, putting them together correctly. When human intelligence built those tanks, the whole agenda of war was not the best use of human intelligence. If you're defending yourself, if you're fighting for independence, yes. Once you've got it, a much better use is to let all these remnants that you see around here, tanks laying in seawater, that will dissolve over the next 25 years. And those iron molecules will be in those mangrove trees. That's a much better use of human intelligence. And it's a much more thrilling and rewarding war to fight. There is an infinite source of water. We could pump as fast as we wanted to, as long as we wanted to, and we couldn't lower that water a millimeter because it's all interconnected to every ocean on the earth, and that's 97% of the world's water. Right there. How can you not make it green? You have to make it green. You can't go to bed unless you do.